Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and welcome to today's session. In today's session, we are going to discuss one of the section in CAT exams that's called as a English section. And we are going to discuss that English section of the last year CAT 2024 question, which is known as a PYQ, previous year question discussion. As far as you know about English section, in English, we have two of the areas, reading comprehension and verbal ability. In reading comprehension, if we talk about that, there are 16 questions, and all those 16 questions are direct and indirect or inference-based question, majorly on assumption, inference, right? And some of the questions which are supporting to the conclusion or supporting to the argument-based question, those kind of a questions, specifically using with the except, most, least, or maybe only, isn't it? Um, some of the questions may be called as a moderate, but most of the questions are uh, difficult, or you can consider most difficult, right? So it needs actually excessive or rigorous practice in the reading areas, and to know each and everything. Like you can talk about when you read the passages, you need to know about the style of the passage. You need to know about the tone of the author, tone of the passage that you draw, means what does the main idea of the text, or what is the central theme of the passage, isn't it? Uh, all such kind of a things that you must draw from the text when you read. Specifically, passages which are historical based or called as a psychological based or philosophy based, or passages which are um, uh, purely on what you can say that literature, isn't it? Because if you think of the reading comprehension, reading passages which are not like the kind of the passages you did in your schooling time, right? So these are the kind of passages which are taken and which are, you can say that highly difficult jargon, or you can say that the kind of a context which are purely metaphorical, right? So that's why it makes the students challenge a lot, right? So beside this four passages, 16 question, we have also other eight question types. Other eight question types means I'm talking about verbal ability section. In verbal ability section, we find out mm, four of the different type of questions, like you can say parajumbled questions, two parajumbled questions, which are typo-based questions, or you can say that theta-based question, where you need to type the answer or type the sequence, isn't it? Another two um, questions which are called as a odd man out question, or you can consider it's a triple O, right? Odd one out, right? That's again called as a kind of a question types where five sentences are provided, and out of that, uh, you need to find out which of the choice is or from the other four. So if you look at the last year question types, that mixes of what odd one out and jumbled sentence question. It means the expert or the question setters ask uh, you can say that um, ask the students to go for the sequence of the sentences and write the sequence. So automatically, when you write the four sentences, means a sentences number, you would mean the computer automatically find out the odd one, isn't it? Now that's again called as odd one out question and jumbled sentence question. So mixes of both. So you can consider that generally we find out two jumble sentence questions, two odd one out questions, two sentence placement questions, and two parasummary based questions. So like that, you would find out eight PA based questions. Okay. So what we will do in today's session, we start with the reading comprehension. We will see the passage, we will try to understand the passage, we will see that what kind of a text it is, what is the tone that the author tries to point out, how we draw the tone out of that passage. We will also look at that the style of the passage, and we will also see the main idea or the central idea of the passage. And then after, we will see any of the words, phrases, or idioms which are difficult to interpret. We will try to know the meaning of it on the basis of the contextual and also on the basis of the denotation, or called as a connotation or denotation approach, which we will follow here, right? Uh, then after, we will proceed for the question answer. Okay, so let's start. Yes. So it's all about the first passes. If you see that the test takers, when create any kind of a reading comprehension, so it may be my perception is that what they take out any kind of a means they take out the particular passes from any of the newspaper or maybe called as a magazine, which is um, the article or the journal which is written by any of the foreign author or authors, right? So, and that particular passage means they make some kind of a edit into it, and then after they um, they derive some of the questions. They work out on it, and they derive some of the questions. They put some questions like what identify one of the option which will validate the author's conclusion, or maybe called as a validate the author's argument, or maybe means all the options are supporting to the author's argument, except, or maybe called as a means all the options are undermining the author's conclusion, except, isn't it? So in that case, um, they generally take out the kind of a question which are a little bit challenging for the students, right? And if the students make such kind of a practice, make the practice of means of those kind of a questions and understand the PYQ, and see the kind of a question types the test takers make um, in every year. So means they don't have the kind of a fiasco in their mind. What happened actually, students, when they don't have the practice, they do have the kind of a fiasco, right? So fiasco in where? Now in exam. So they sit in the exam and directly face the kind of a question, and they they do know some of the means question types, but they don't know most of the question types. They do not understand also the reasoning behind the question. So, what does the author want to convey, uh, or what does the author want from the students when they put some kind of a question, isn't it? So here also we find out that the first passage mm, in slot one, the first passage of English is nothing but taken from the Economist. So and it was means it was published in the year of 2021, May 8, and somehow you can say that the length of the passage and the number of words could be 500 to 600 words. And the title of the passage is called as a, Can Human Creativity Prevent Mass Unemployment? Right? That's a kind of a question, right? Can human creativity stop mass unemployment? So it is the kind of a text which is pointing towards the artisan goods, right? It tells the kind of a comparison between the past and the present, and it's indicating that the market for artisan goods is possibly to grow, but organized craft could lose its charm. Let's look at the passage. Yes, the passage at the left side and the questions at the right side with the choice. We know that what generally in English we have a means three of the things you would find out. One is called as a main statement, question statement, and option statement, isn't it? Here, the main statement is nothing but the passive form, and the second one is called as a question statement, and uh, the option statement is given to identify which one of the choices is the best and the most appropriate, right? As for the question given, right? Let's go for the text. What does the text try to say that? The idea of craftsmanship. So when you talk about craftsmanship, what do you mean by that? So the meaning of craftsmanship is called as the skill of making things by hand, right? By hand with the care and quality. So it is not simply nostalgia, or you can say that it is not something you can say about desiring for the past, right? Crafts require distinct skills. Distinct skills means referring to the spatial abilities and all round approach. We can say that covering every part, not just one, to work that involves the whole product rather than individual parts, and an attitude that necessitates or requires devotion, strong dedication to the job, and a focus on the communal interest. Communal interest means that you can talk about benefit for the community. The concept of craft emphasizes what or highlights what? The human touch. Human touch means referring to the personal care and individual judgment, personal decision making, all such kind of a things that the first paragraph is trying to say. In the second paragraph, the author said that essentially the craft means which we are talking about the skill. So, or basically the craft's concept seems to run against or go against the preponderant ethos. When I say that a preponderant ethos, it means called as the main belief or system of values of management studies, which as the academics know, that have long prioritized, given more importance to do things quickly and cheaply. That's what is known as efficiency. Isn't it? Not only that, it also stated about consistency, means giving everything the same. So, craft skills were portrayed or shown as being primitive, basic, old-fashioned, and we can say that sticking to old ways. So, the difference or the contrast between artisanship or artisanship is called as what? The difference between artisanship or called as the work of skilled craft workers and efficiency first came to the appeared strongly in the 19th century. So when you can talk about British manufacturers suddenly faced competition from across the Atlantic. Atlantic means called as America, as farms developed the American system using standardized parts made in the same size or shape for all product. The worldwide success of the single sewing machine means when you talk about a single sewing machine that showed the potential or called as a possibility of a mass product, mass produced or factory made in large numbers devices, right? So in that case, this process created its own reaction, or you can say that what own pushback. First, in the form of the arts and crafts movement of the late 19th century, and then again in the small is beautiful movement. So it is again called as an idea that small scale work is better. Uh, it happens during the 1970, and then after you would find out a third one, a third craft, a third crafts movement is coming out or appearing as people become aware of the environmental impact or called as a harmful effects on nature of conventional industry. Conventional industry means that called as a normal or usual industry. So in the next paragraph, in the fourth paragraph, it is stated that there are two potential market types. So, two potential markets means what? There are two types of customers. For those who practice crafts, the first, stems from, you can say that come from the existence of consumers. Consumers is called as a buyers who are willing to pay a premium price that called as a extra or high price for goods that are deemed or considered to be of extra quality. The second market lies in what? The second market lies, or you can say, is found in those consumers who wish to use their purchase to support local workers, or you can say that to reduce their environmental impact by taking goods to craftspeople to be mended. To be mended means to be repaired or recycled or used again, isn't it? So then in the fifth paragraph, it is stated for workers, the appeal of craftsmanship or called it the attraction of craftsmanship is that it allows them the autonomy or freedom or independence to make creative choices. And therefore, um, it makes a job for far more satisfying, pleasing, enjoyable. In that sense, it could offer hope for the overall labor market. Overall labor market means all jobs in the economy. Let the machines automate or do work automatically, or you can say boring and also repetitive again and again, same task, and allow workers focus purely on what means their skills, judgment, and imagination. As you can find out the current example, the academic mentions here the Agile Manifesto. So, what do you mean by the Agile Manifesto? That called it statements of belief. In the software sector, industry felt an industry at the heart of technological change. The pioneer is known as early leaders. So the early leaders behind the original Agile Manifesto promised to prioritize individuals and interaction over process and tool by bringing together experts from different teams. Agile working is designed to improve creativity. So in the penultimate paragraph, it is stated there is a contrast, but the broader question or the bigger issue is whether crafts can create a lot more jobs than they do today. So, demand, or you can say need or interest for crafted products may rise, but it will be easy to, you can say, retrain. Retrain means called as a teach new skills to workers in field of work that might get automated done by machine such as truck drivers, to take advantage. You know, in a world where products and services often have to pass through regulatory hoop, regulatory hoops means called as that called as rules and rules and approvals. So if you talk about that, a world where products and services often have to pass through rules and approvals, large company will usually have the uh, benefit of stronger position. So you can say that the last paragraph finally point out that history also suggests that the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic, not always true. So Middle Ages, old European periods, which is known as a medieval, so they have the craft that means guilds are called as um, that the workers were monopoly. Monopoly means called as controlling everything, which actually fought against what? Fought against or resisted new entrants, new people joining. They were also highly, you can say that the hierarchical. Hierarchical means called as um, street levels of rank, with the young men required to spend long periods as learners or apprentices. So, and journeymen or workers, not yet masters, before they could set up on their own. By that time, you would find out the innovative spirit or creative energy may have been knocked out of them or called as a destroy. Craft workers can do well in the modern era, but the problem is what? But only if they don't get too organized. Look at the last line. But only if they don't get too organized. It means called as they don't become rigid or controlling like old worker, isn't it? So in that case, you can say that the text is written in the style, right? In the form of analytical, or you can say that analytical journalism. Um, and you can talk about it's a kind of a social commentary, right? So the idea of this particular text is excuse me, so trying to give us the idea that called as a the text is purely analytical and historical, you can say, uh, compare different eras and perspective. And you can also say that it is trying to explaining everything, expository in nature, explains ideas clearly with examples. It also shows both positive sides and cons, pros and cons of craftsmanship. Right. So all total, you can talk about that the skill or the style of the passage is analytical and historical, and you can say that it has been explained clearly, expository in nature, and try to balance. It means trying to provide both pros and cons of craftsmanship. Second is called as the text have a tone. What kind of a tone you would find out? The tone of the text is nothing but a reflective. So, what do you mean by reflective? Now, it tries to look at the past and present trends. Second is called as means the tone. Also, some paragraphs as shown as a critical in nature, critical, but at the same time, the author has a hopeful in nature, points out challenges while showing potential benefits. Isn't it? Okay. Then after the next, you would also find out the tone of the text is informative. It explains ideas without emotional exaggerations, isn't it? So in that case, all total, the main idea of the text is what? Now, the main idea of the text is called as a craftsmanship emphasizes creativity, right? Craftsmanship emphasizes creativity, human judgment, and community over what? Efficiency and mass production. While modern society values efficiency, crafts still offer value for workers, consumers, and sustainability. But face challenges in what? Scaling up and avoiding rigidity, right? So that's what is the main idea of the text. So in that case, the idea of craftsmanship is not just about looking back at the past. Craft means having special skills, and you can say that caring about the whole product, not just parts, and being devoted to both the work and the community. It values the human touch and creativity. However, this classes with what? This classes with you can say that modern management, which mainly focuses on efficiency and you can say uniformity, right? So this text is trying to tell us that crafts were once seen as what old-fashioned compared to what you can say that compared to mass production, which became popular in the 19th century, especially with inventions like the singer sewing machine. So, what is that singer sewing machine? Now, it's nothing but a kind of an invention which do you can produce the product in a mass. So, still, movements such as the arts and crafts movement in the 1800s, and another one is called as a small is beautiful in the 1970s, and today's environment concern have retrieved interest in, you can say that, craft. Well, look at the first question. The first question given here. The first question stated that we can infer from the passage that medieval craft girls resembled mass production in that boat, right? So in that case, the question asked or the question is asking us what similarity, what similarity, what similarity, what similarity did medieval craft guilds and mass production share? Isn't it? That is what the question asks. Look at that, four choices are pointed. The first choice said that they did not necessarily promote creativity. It means both, um, you can say that mass production and guilds did not really help creativity. Second option said that they discouraged innovation by restricting entry through strict rules. So it means they both stopped new ideas because they did not allow newcomers in easily. Then the third one says that they did not always employ egalitarian production processes. Isn't it? It means they both did not always use equal or fair methods in production. The fourth one, which is said, they focused excessively on what? Product quality. Now, in that case, they both cared too much about quality. That is what it is stated. Now, which one would be the appropriate that help us to identify the similarity? In that case, if I look at the first one, they did not necessarily promote creativity. That could be the appropriate answer. As far as we have read in the last paragraph, which is stated, history also suggests that the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic. Again, it is stated that medieval craft guilds were monopolies, right, which stopped new entrants. They were also highly hierarchical with the young men required to spend long periods as apprentices, as a learners and journeymen before they could set up on their own. By that time, the innovative spirit may have been knocked out of them. So it indicates that what means they don't have the creativity, right? Why? Because even in the second paragraph of the passage stated that the craft concept seems to run against the preponderant ethos of management studies, which, as the academic note, have long prioritized on efficiency and consistency. So craft skills were portrayed as being primitive and traditionalist. So this clearly indicating that mass production means reduces creativity because it focuses on what? It focuses on efficiency and consistency, not imagination. Therefore, you can point out means option A is correct. Both did not really encourage creativity, isn't it? Now, if I go to the other options like option B, which is just stated about what they discouraged innovation. Right? So they discourage innovation by restricting entry through strict rules. Now that is true for medieval guilds. They had you can say that monopolies registered new entrants, but it is not true for mass production. Mass production does not stop new people from joining, it just standardizes work. So, this is, you can say that partly true, not for both. Similar to that, option C, that also said did not always employ egalitarian production processes. The passage never talks about equal or fair processes. This idea is not mentioned, so it cannot be also inferred, right? Then the fourth one, which is stated, means focused excessively on product quality. The passage shows the opposite. Mass production focused on what you can say efficiency and consistency. Efficiency and consistency. So not quality. So guilds focused on rules and uh, hierarchy, right? So not just product quality. So this is also considering as a clearly wrong one. Hence, we can consider option A would be the appropriate. So that is what the inference we draw that they did not necessarily focus on what? They did not necessarily focus on the creativity, right? They focus on what? That called as efficiency and consistency, as far as we identify from the second paragraph and last paragraph. From that, we infer. Hope you understood this. Let's move to the next one. Well, let's look at the second question. So the second question asked here, which one of the following statements is not inconsistent? Look at that. The word is given in a capital letter, not, not inconsistent. If you talk about that not inconsistent with the view which is stated in the passage, this means which option? matches. Which option matches the ideas in the passage? So it means consistent with it. So we are looking for the statement that fits with the passage because it is stated not inconsistent. Hope you understand that. So in that case, we need to find out which of the statement uh, given in the choices that fits with the passage. Okay, let's look at that choice one by one and evaluate it properly. So the first choice is stated, we need to support the crafts, only then can we retain the creativity intrinsic to their production. Now, what does it try to say that? It is trying to say that crafts must be supported. We need to support the crafts means crafts must be supported, only then can we keep the creativity intrinsic to their production. Otherwise, we will lose their natural creativity. That is what A is trying to say. So, can we consider that it is not inconsistent or fits with the passage? We will check that. Look at the second option. Second option stated here, creativity in the crafts could be stifled if the market for artisan goods become too organized. So creativity in the crafts could be stifled if the market for artisan goods become too organized. It means if crafts become too structured or rigid, creativity could be reduced. That is what B is trying to say. Can it be fit in the passage? Okay, let's look at the C. So she said the arts and crafts movement was initially inspired by the American system of production. It means it is trying to say that what the arts and crafts movement was started because of inspiration from American mass production, isn't it? Then Ford said the agile movement in software is a throwback to the tenets, throwback to the tenets of the medieval crafts guides. Okay, so it indicates that what agile software is similar to medieval craft guild principles. Now, on the basis of these four of the choices, um, if we look at the first one, right? The first one, which is just stated about we need to support the crafts. Only then can we keep the creativity intrinsic to their production, right? This could be, not supported by the passage. Why? Now, because the passage clearly says history also suggests that the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic, isn't it? Now, when we say that we need to support the crafts, only then can we keep the creativity intrinsic to their production. But history suggests that the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic. So, creativity is not guaranteed in crafts, right? Mm, Supporting them does not ensure or make sure creativity. Therefore, A is not inconsistent, right? Or called as not inconsistent. In that, sorry, A is inconsistent, not inconsistent. You can't say that it doesn't fit with the passage, right? So B says what? The arts and crafts movement. Hmm. So we say that what creativity in the mm, yeah. Okay. So let's come to the second question. So the second question stated here, which one of the following statements is not inconsistent? Look at the what, which is clearly stated, not in a capital letter. So, and it is stated what? Not inconsistent with the views stated in the passage. So, when we say that not inconsistent, it means called as a something which is consistent with the passage. Or you can say that the choice, one of the choices will be consistent with the passage. So, we are looking for the statement that fits with the passage, that fits with the passage fits with the passage, isn't it? That is what. So let's look at the each of the choice and evaluate it. We try to understand what each choice is trying to point out. So the first choice stated that we need to support crafts. We need to support crafts. Only then can we keep the creativity intrinsic to their production, isn't it? In that case, the choice is trying to say, the choice is trying to tell us that what crafts must be supported. We need to support the crafts means crafts must be supported. Otherwise, we will lose their natural creativity. That is what means A sage. Second option, which is stated, creativity in the crafts could be stifled if the market for artisan goods become too organized. So in that case, if crafts become too structured or rigid, creativity could be reduced, right? That is what B is trying to say. And C is saying that what the arts and crafts movement was initially inspired by the American system of production. So this one is trying to tell us that the arts and crafts movement was just started because of inspiration from American mass production. Then B said the agile movement in software is a throwback to the tenets or beliefs of the medieval craft guild, crafts guides. So in that case, this one is focusing on agile software, which is similar to medieval craft guild principles, right? On the basis of these four of the choices which have been pointed here, um, if I look at the first choice, which we understood, that stage, we need to support the crafts, or the crafts must be supported or needed to support, then can be retain the creativity intrinsic to their production. So this one is not supported. Why? Because history suggests that what the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic, isn't it? So it says that what it suggests that the link between crafts and creativity is not automatic. So creativity is not guaranteed. Creativity is not guaranteed in crafts. Then in that case, if you talk about this, um, this does not ensure creativity. Therefore, A is what? Inconsistent. A is what? Inconsistent. A cannot be the answer here because it goes with the inconsistent. Now, B said what? Now, B is trying to say that creativity, right? It says that um, creativity in the crafts could be stifled if the market for artisan goods become too organized. It means if crafts become too or structured or rigid, creativity could be reduced. So in that case, in the passage, lastly, you can say that last lines where it is stated, craft workers can thrive. If I look at that, craft workers can thrive in the modern era, but only if they don't get too organized. So this is what we can draw, and this is what fit in the text. Because as far as we look at the B, it is stated means it is stated something which is not inconsistent. You can say that it is consistent because the idea stated that creativity in the crafts could be stifled if the market for artisan goods become too organized, or if crafts become too structured or rigid, creativity could be reduced, isn't it? And that's what you would find out in the last sentence. That is what we infer. But if I look at the Other options like A that we find out not been um, consistent, inconsistent, and B is something which is clearly fit into the passes. Let's look at the C and D. C said the arts and crafts movement was initially inspired by the American system. So this is not true even. The passage says the arts and crafts movement was, you can say that a against reaction against mass production. So, how do we find out that? You can see that in the second paragraph of the passage, where it is stated essentially the craft concept seems to run against the or go against the preponderant those of management studies, in which, as the academic note, have long prioritized efficiency and consistency. Craft skills were portrayed as being primitive and traditional, right? So in that case, you can say it is a reaction against the mass production, right? So in that case, this one is also inconsistent. Next, D said the agile movement in software is a throwback to the beliefs of the medieval crafts guys. This is even wrong. Why? Because the passage compares what? Compares agile to creativity, agile to creativity and teamwork in modern times, not to medieval guilds, isn't it? In fact, you can say guilds were shown as restrictive. Guilds were shown as what? Restrictive, restrictive, and even hierarchical, and even hierarchical. So that would be called as opposite to agile. So therefore, T is inconsistent. In that case, if I see means the last paragraph where it is stated about craft workers can thrive, but only if they don't get too organized. So that matches the option B exactly. Creativity may be stifled if crafts become too rigid. So that is what you can draw. So that fits. The other options either misinterprets, like option A misinterprets it, so and contradicts the passage. C is doing that, or confuse agile with skills. That's D is trying to say. So therefore, we can consider option B is correct because it is supported by the passage. A, C, D are inconsistent with the passage. Hope you understood this. Let's move to the next one. Mhm. Okay, this is the third question. Yeah. So let's come to the third question. So the third question is about what? Uh, the author questions. Yeah. So the third question, what is that third question stated here? The author questions the ability of crafts to create substantial or called as a large scale, substantial or called as a large scale employment opportunities presently because so try to understand what does the question say here. The author questions the ability of crafts to create large-scale employment opportunity presently because it means the question is asking why does the author doubt that crafts can provide many jobs today, right? Isn't it? Because here it is stated questions the ability. So therefore it will be called as a doubts the ability of crafts can provide many jobs, right? So in that case, which of the option will be the region to it? Let's look at the first choice. The first choice said the low scale of crafts, the low scale of crafts production will not be able to absorb the mass of redundant labor, isn't it? That is what it means. It is trying to say that uh, crafts are too small to give jobs to all workers who lose their jobs elsewhere. Right. That is what A is saying. Then B said that what means regulatory requirements could make it difficult for small craft outfits to compete. It means rules and approvals make it difficult for small craft business to survive against big companies. That is what, because it is stated regulatory requirements possibly make it difficult for small craft outfits to compete with the big companies. Then third said that workers made redundant by automation that are not likely to opt for craft related works. It means workers are replaced by machines will probably not want to shift to crafts. Then D said crafts guild tend to resist or stop new entrants and are not likely to accept large numbers of trainees. It means you can say that craft organizations don't like newcomers, so they won't take many learners, isn't it? So, on the basis of that, if I look at each of the men's option and if I means analyze them, so as per the question, so we need to find out the region. The first one, which is stated, the low scale of crabs cannot absorb mass labor. So the passage that's mentioned demand, and the passage also mentioned means retraining, but doesn't say scale is too low, isn't it? That is what uh, means not presenting in the passage. So A is not directly supported. At the same time, if I talk about the option B, which is stated about regulatory requirements, so this could be appropriate. Why? Because as for the passage, we find out in the last paragraph, in a world where products and services often have to pass through regulatory hoops, right, which is stated um, it gives us the idea that what, but look at the last two paragraph where it is stated, but the broader question is whether crafts can create a lot more jobs than they do today. Demand for crafted products may rise, but will it be easy to retain workers in sector that might get automated to take advantage? In a world where products and services often have to pass through regulatory hoops, that is what which is given. It means in a world where products and services often have to pass through regulatory hoops, large companies do what? Will usually have the advantages. So, which is saying this means rules and approvals, right? Rules and approvals are called as a regulation, which rules and approvals means regulation that make it difficult for small crafts people to compete with what? Big business. So the author doubts crafts can create a lot of jobs because regulation favor whom? Large companies, not small companies. So not small crafts. So hence we find out option B is the most appropriate or in compared to option A, it is better one, right? But let's look at the other options. C. C says what? Workers replaced by machine, not likely to shift to crafts. So the passage asks actually, will it be easy to retain workers in sectors that might get automated, which we have read in the penultimate paragraph, isn't it? So this is about difficulty in retaining, not that workers won't opt for crabs. Too strong or clean, right? So in that case, option C is also wrong. So fourth one, which is said, guilds resist, right? Guilds resist new entrants. So in that case, it is true historically because as for the last paragraph where it is stated. But the question is about what? About present day job, isn't it? Now, if you see that medieval craft guilds were monopolies which registered new entrants. So, as per the D, it is true. But the question is about present day job creation. So today's crafts are not dominated by medieval guilds. So in that case, D is also irrelevant here, right? In that case, if I talk about that, means option B, which is nothing but a correct answer, right? Because if we look for the line about employment limits in present day, we find out that regulatory hoops. So this regulatory hoops that favor to the large companies, right? So and companies will usually have the advantage. So that matches option B. ACT means that do nothing but what misinterpret, or you can say bring in irrelevant or historical points. So in that case, option B, regulatory requirement, would make it difficult for small crafts outfit to compete. That would be the answer. Hope you understood this. Let's move to the last question of the first passage. Thank you. So, well, we come to the last question. So, question number 4. And here the question is given that the most recent revival in interest in the crabs is a result of all of the following except. Now here it is an except based question. Mm, so when you find out any of the question which is an except based question, so you need to means understand the question carefully, that what does it try to ask. So this question asks us that which one of these is not given as a reason for today's renewed interest in crafts. It is stated that the most recent revival in interest in crafts. It means most recent means what? Referring to the today's revival, or called as a renewed interest in crafts, is a result of all. It means one is there, which is except, right? So in that case, we need to evaluate each and every option and try to see that which option is considered not a region. The first option, look at the first option. The first option said that support for individual creations instead of mass production or mass produced objects, right? It means it is trying to say that people today want unique, one of a kind items instead of a factory made goods. That is what A is trying to say, right? Now, in that case, uh, understand that whether this particular statement is stated in the passage or not. No, the passage does not say the new revival is because of supporting what? Supporting individuality against mass production, right? So the passage actually talk about what? The passage actually talk about, you can say here only, look at the third paragraph where it is stated, um, the contrast between artisanship and efficiency first came to the fore in the 19th century when British manufacturers suddenly faced competition from across the Atlantic as firms developed American system using standardized parts. So the worldwide success of the single sewing machine and showed the potential of a mass-produced device. This process created its own reaction. So what are those reactions? The first reaction is called as the form of arts and craft movement of the late 19th century, and then again in the small is beautiful movement of the 1970s. And you can say that a third craft movement that is emerging as people became aware of the environmental impact of conventional industry. So in that case, here you would find out small is beautiful and the art and craft movement and the environmental impact. So this is something called as a coming under environmental awareness, isn't it? Environmental awareness, environmental awareness. So this is trying to say a third crafts movement that is emerging as people become aware of the environmental impact. Then you would also find out there are two potential market for those who practice crafts. The first stems from the existence of consumer who are willing to pay a premium price. Premium price means high price for goods that are deemed to be extra quality. The second market lies in those who wish to use their purchases to support local workers or reduce their environmental impact by taking goods to craftspeople to be repaired or recycled. Now, in that case, consumers are willing to pay a premium price, isn't it? Then third is also we find out that um, support local workers. It means consumer who wish to use their purchases to support local workers, right? In that case, if we see, nowhere it is mentioned that people revived crafts because they want individual creation versus mass production. So in that case, we can find out A is possibly an except one. It is not the region. Look at the option B, C, and D, whether they are stating some of the regions or not. So if I look at the option B, B said what? Concern about the environmental impact. Concern about the environmental impact of mass production. It means people care about how factories harm the environment. Yes, we find out this. This could be a region. We can find out this, isn't it? So, then third, which is said a niche market for discerning buyers of quality product. So this one is saying that there is a small group of buyers who are willing to pay more for high quality handmade product. They state, buyers of quality products. So in that case, we talk about quality products somewhere. Uh, yes, uh, people are ready to pay premium price, right? In that case, people are ready to pay premium quality, premium means high prices for goods that are demanded to be extra quality. Extra quality means called as a high quality products. Then D is called as a greater interest in buying locally produced goods. It means people prefer to buy from local workers instead of global corporations. So this option D is called as a somewhere given in a year. You can find out use their purchases to support local workers. So in that case, D is again called as a one of the possible regions. So option B, C, D are nothing but the regions behind the most recent revival, right? So, but if you look at the means option A, means that cannot, right? So, what do we find out here? That we find out the idea called as, so when we talk about concern about the environmental impact, right, of mass production, this explicitly mentioned in the means para 3, right? Para 3, then or para 2 and 3, you can connect it, you can connect both of them. So, which is stated that crafts movement aware of the environmental impact. So, B is nothing but a possible region. Then C is called as explicitly mentioned in para 3. Um, so where it is stated about consumers willing to pay a premium price for goods of extra quality. Then D is called as explicitly mentioned again in a para 3, consumers who wish to support local workers. So D is a region. So B, C, D are nothing but the region. Let me point out how you reach or how you derive step by step. So when you talk about the reading comprehension and you find out the questions and the choices, right? So scan for mentions about some of the small phrases. Like here, if I talk about that, one is indicating about what means revival in crafts, the question, isn't it? So then you can talk about means when you say B, C, D, it tells about what particular part called as environmental region, quality conscious buyers, plus support local workers. So in that case, if I see B, C, D, these are nothing but clearly scanned from the passages. But A, which is not mentioned anywhere about individual creation versus mass production. So therefore, A is the exception. So that is what the answer here, right? I hope you understood this. That's all. Thank you.